Hey, it's Tweeter's Digest, the Gender Pilled podcast. Episode 6 Kombucha's Brain is Small. Hey, Kombucha. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me today.
What's up?
Just enjoying the day and the life, man. Yeah, before we get into this stuff, I'd first love to know, what have you been up to lately?
Maxing and relaxing. Yeah, cannot. It's been a smattering of different activities, so I can't really think of any single easy way to define it.
Okay. Maybe we'll learn more as we get into your tweets then. On January 21st, 2021, you tweeted, "The shill for therapy is an unperceived hedge to hide the reasons why it's necessary for most women to exist as independent individuals in the current economic space. There's a reason why you rarely see women finish therapy, as it's not meant to be finished. The need for sustainable profit incentivizes a need to maintain dependence and therefore bread and butter income. None of this is an active pursuit, by the way, rather systemic. I say this not in regard to therapy as a theory, the nature of which will be touched on later, more with regard to the current state of the practice in America. A TLDR outline going forward is therapy itself is a codified version of the classic male rearing experience. An anecdotal but relatable defense of this is as simple as the most common customer base. It largely consists of women who were raised with absent, emotionally or physically, fathers, overbearing and overly paternal parent figures of either gender, and mama's boys. People who were never given lessons which amount to, do this, figure it out. There was always a, do it this way, which usually yielded some tangible form which could be interpreted as success, affection, money, freedom from chores, etc. There was never a, do this because it must be done. There is no reason. Flavor of lesson during adolescence. This, finding one's own meaning and value, is the desired mental process sought out by all therapeutic strategies. While this is an admirable goal, as this mindset is infinitely useful, the practice itself turns this process into a saleable service. It's wisdom for hire.
Yeah.
Teach a man how to fish, and you're both out of business, as well as out of practice of expertise, experience, and ego boost."
Damn, yeah, nice choice.
Mm-hmm.
First thought, it's all vibes, no thought. I've already forgotten that why I thought that as far as like the entire argument. That's kind of why I grabbed some paper, was to try to reform the original argument that led to that thought. But I want to say it's classic Marxist, but not really. It's a classic complaint of capitalism, or of it's the meme. It's crony capitalism, but it's really that once someone's livelihood is based upon a source of income, they are necessarily motivated to maintain that income, whether it be through varying means that could be varying levels of morality, being seeking new customers or maintaining current customers. And there's no real incentive for them to make that moral choice in either direction. And frankly, one is easier than the other. I think that's the original thoughts. There's some theory behind that, but I forget who said it.
That new and existing customer dependence reminds me of like things with like psychedelic therapies, where you can hook someone on Adderall forever and get a sustainable income generation that way, or do some psych swinner a few times and then your sort of nudges are changed for life, and you don't need to have some ongoing medical dependence in that way.
Exactly. It's the same argument. The same arguments are made about automobiles, about selling new autos versus repairing old cars, housing, really everything about. And I'm not sure if it's America, particularly our flavor of capitalism, as a fan of capitalism, for its upsides, it has its upsides, or what. I forget the base arguments. been thinking about other things lately, and my brain is small.
I see. I was also curious from this. You sort of frame it as a kind of gender thing, like it's more this therapy idea is more relevant to women, but is that actually the case? I feel like this would be, boys and girls would both be affected by this phenomenon where, you're sort of hooked on therapy, so to speak.
Yeah, it's mostly that it's just directly marketed to women by culture. I mean, that feels like a cheat. Women are more likely to seek to help each other or to convince each other. That's the often discussed issue that men's culture has, and that we don't help each other with emotional issues or personal problems. And it's just more likely to, from what I've seen, be the end result of those discussions between women or in that gender space dialogue. But as far as why I came up with the thought, I was probably just butthurt about like a date pissing me off or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed a sort of through line throughout a lot of your tweets. It was kind of like some, laser room heist thing on my end to avoid your most inflammatory tweets. But I think I succeeded. I'm curious, have you ever like done therapy yourself? Do you have any personal experience there?
No, I studied it, which is probably the exact wrong thing to do.
How did you study it?
Again, that's the thing I did a while ago that I've since forgotten. It was like first I decided to learn deep self-reflection and deep relaxation,
Hmm.
and then yeah, letting thoughts and feelings flow, and then yeah, slowly picking out. And as I've described to many others, one of my favorite pieces of advice that was given to me by an actual therapist was to just take notes on a some sort of regular interval basis of what happened and yada yada, and sort of again self-therapizing, if that's even a word.
Yeah, I'll allow it. Therapizing. All right, so you did a lot of, say, self-reflection. Was that through journaling? Like, what was your process of like noticing things about yourself?
I mean, it's still ongoing. It just changes all the time. So it wasn't like a was happened. It was a beginning of something that I would do forever. I was
Hmm.
seeking self growth. Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks. No, honestly, uh, that was basically it. Was beginning to notice and slowly whittling down from a very rough strategy, right? Of from the brain to handwriting onto the paper and then back out into the brain space
Hmm.
to and then refact, like kind of boiling it into feelings and thoughts, and eventually sort of vibes or sort of not caring, not really sure which. Eventually became satisfied mostly with what was going on.
Hmm.
But that again seems like a cheat.
Say it sounds like a cheat.
It seems like a cheat when I say it, or like it seems like a cheap statement
Oh,
to
cheat.
say. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so you're noticing things and capturing them in handwriting, and refactoring them. Could you share, like, I guess, like the content of what you were capturing? Was it mostly sort of, just the events that happened? Was there a lot of emotional commentary? Something else? What was the flavor of what you were writing down?
Yeah, it started as that, as again, very rudimentary of like, this is the time, this is how I feel right now, right? It started with simple things. Again, I was raised without any of these ideas at all, besides basically how to do math. And like I am angry, right? Or I now it is, and then it turns into, okay, I feel tense here and here and here on my body, and oh, this is over the last hour, or it started with days. This is what happened over the last day, and then it was, this is what I've eaten, this is what I've drank, yada yada yada, and kind of trying to put two and two together of like, what is happening, why is this happening, and things such as this is what came to mind when I was angry, as far as what's an example? Memory is not my strong suit, if that isn't apparent.
It's all good, man. Same here.
It's like why do I feel tense? What does this remind me of? Okay, why is that memory something that makes me feel uncomfortable? Or why is it something that makes me feel sad? Or why is it something that makes me feel joy?
Hmm.
And then again, working through that of, okay, what is this memory in my history? And what does it mean to me? And then eventually doing that, slowly kind of whittling that journaling down from just as I mentioned, it started as one day, kind of whittling it down both time-wise into a less structured note form, and eventually just thinking about it sort of actively, and then now still kind of dancing between actively and passively, depending on how much I care really and how hungry I am.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it is something that's been on my mind lately too, like the body mind interplay.
Hmm.
Um, just I've been like body pilled lately, like they seem much more, correlated and interdependent than I used to give the body credit for.
Hmm. Body Keep Score.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, stellar book. That
Hmm.
that's one detail of like the things I've touched along the way, where it's like, does reading this book count as therapy? Is it equatable? Is it at least 10% as good? Maybe.
Yeah, I haven't read the book myself, but just generally, um, I feel like finding ways to help yourself, whatever practice that is, reading, journaling, conversations with friends or whoever, figuring out how to like take care of yourself and, nudge yourself towards whatever more sustainable mental processes or ways of living, feels like the good quotes way to go about it, as opposed to like, receiving directives from a therapist or someone. Yeah, helping yourself, I'm just a big fan of in general.
Same. That was
Mhm.
part of why I think I decided to do it versus go to. No, it was actually because I didn't have insurance. That was why. I think that's the actual reason why, in hindsight.
Mhm.
I did go to a neuropsychologist once. I could actually probably find her notes here somewhere. Well, does that count, right? Because I have her whole work through. It was like 4 or 5 pages of like, this is Kumbucha's like brain. What the fuck is going on? And it basically amounted to like, you're too low confidence. Uh, be more confident. Stretched out over 7 pages. So, uh, yeah, does that count or does that not count? Right.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the sort of label thing is important, but if you got something out of that note, that long, be more confident note, then that's really what matters.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess from that, did you take steps to become more confident, or did you integrate that note somehow?
Yeah, it's been a very long process of even understanding what that idea is
Hmm.
within myself. Whether confidence versus arrogance is super tricky.
Really?
Yeah, um, as in, why am I sure of something versus being sure of something for absolutely no reason? Um, that's my current guess at the difference between those ideas. But sorry, I ran out of coffee. That's my bad.
Oh, tough. I mean, you can go make some more if you want. I can pause.
Mm.
Yeah, that confidence arrogance point is interesting. Do you find yourself leaning too far in one direction or the other sometimes, like you're either not confident enough or too arrogant? Are those cases pop up in your life?
It was definitely way too much arrogance in first. Again, before I had an idea of why, even who I want to be, as gonna stand another book now is the subtle art of not giving a fuck. It's basically the book of Job but modernized. uh And it's like, it was first just like, oh, I'm awesome. Doing that for any decent amount of time just is just a bad look. And it leads to a lot of people. And again, it's this, what am I getting from other people pattern or habit of self-reflection and like, oh, you know what? People are mad at me. Why are they mad at me? Maybe it's because I'm being an asshole. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that book title is certainly, more inflammatory. Could lead to a lot of more harm than help being done as far as, self-help books.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a male-oriented book for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is that Mark Manson? Did he write it?
No clue.
Okay.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
that's on the details.
Yeah, doesn't matter who.
I just remember the Googleable part.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just very glad to hear you've, done a lot of introspection there and been able to help yourself.
Sweet, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to your next tweet. On February 15th, 2021, you tweeted, "If any woman is interested in the sucky side of modern expectations towards masculinity, just tell them to watch Casino Royale, because that is it to a T."
Good one. No, I'm thinking because it's which scene is it? I think it's the casino scene. I mean, that's again that in hindsight, that tweet was a cheap shot. There's a downside to the way I use Twitter. Is not even fully formed ideas that are necessarily worth expressing, but I just poop them out anyways. Yeah, it's the casino scene where it's like he just, no matter what, he can't stop, even though I think it's the casino scene with the poker game and where he's basically dying, but he has to hold up the poker game and then keep going no matter what, even though everything around him or everything within himself is falling apart, but he has to keep his mind and character together. It's a classic idea expressed on the Ask Men subreddit, I think, but I believe the idea goes, it just sucks and you can't quit. And that's the gist of it. Because there's nothing there otherwise.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen Casino Royale. I'm not familiar with the scene here in question, but it sounds like what you're pointing towards is this idea that men sometimes have undue burdens placed on them from whatever society or family. Like, is that
Yes.
okay?
It's half and half the burdens of I guess being the base pillar, the base drive holding up a lot of structures or but yeah, holding up what? That's a good question. I want to say everything as much as that feels hilariously cheap once again.
So you're saying that men hold up? Is this all of society? Just
No. I mean, not individually,
mhm.
no. However, within the family, often, yeah.
Mhm.
I cannot think of any specific single examples. That's not my thing. But instead, there isn't much leeway if you fall apart as a man. There's no bottom. There's no ground. It's just endless falling and sort of like very similar to falling in dreams, free falling in dreams, except emotionally and psychologically in life.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
That resonates. Just culturally, it feels like women have better access to either emotional or other forms of support,
Mhm.
whereas men can be potentially left out in the cold if they don't, live up to their expectations placed on them from family or whoever.
Yeah, and that's kind of I see the other side to it as well, unfortunately, where it's like the power of constraints is without that the endless pit of emotion or psychological doom. As a man, you never really learn how to just put yourself together, no matter how flustered or Charlie Foxtrotted everything is, and just pick a direction and go.
You're saying that sort of men like require these constraints in order to, be successful in society, or having trouble grasping what you're pointing to here?
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't describe it or state it very well. It was actually kind of a hypothetical, which is shitty on my end. It's a question of whether or not that need to learn how to work beyond and avoid the free fall is something that's actually beneficial for men. I don't think so, but it feels like it has some value when it comes to fostering a certain kind of mindset and learning a skill that may be necessary in the exceptionally dark times. I'm still not quite sure about that. Obviously, I'm complaining about it. So,
Yeah, going back to the tweet itself, have you personally, I guess, felt pushback or some drawback from masculine expression, or just inhabiting your more masculine energy, just socially or in any context?
good question. Inhabiting my masculine energy. I don't even know what that is. That's something that's came out as far as just pure vibing or pure expression is not complete or absolute or 100% masculinity.
So you're saying like when you're vibing or sort of being yourself is a more integration of both masculine and feminine energies? Is that?
That's what it seemed. Yeah, that's what it seems to be from a bird's eye or a self-reflective view. And then of course get pushback from anything that isn't others' expectations. But I'm trying to think of what my masculine expression would be. I mean, to dig a bit for that idea. And this is part of that self-reflection I've actually been touching on quite a bit recently, is how much of it is just deference, what I think is femininity within myself, and how much of it is actually something that's, I don't know, true from some base brain or character state of being that I should consider myself. Particularly to answer the question of pushback, the single moment that I receive pushback incredibly often is when I do not first set up a solidly masculine character and set others' expectations of like, okay, this is who this guy is. This guy is like a stiff kind of, not brick wall visually, but like this is a hard guy that can't be pushed. And then if I'm more of who I usually am, which is just vibing, and then when it reaches a point where I'm just kind of annoyed or whatever, or they're trying to push me around for their own reasons, some good, some maybe bad, and I'm not interested in letting them push me around, which is then going from kind of a fluid character to more of a static. And I'm not sure if that is masculine or not, but not allowing them to push me, then I get the pushback from the pushback from the pushback. them not liking that that suddenly they're getting a hard response. I'm not even sure how that fits into gender dynamics, to be honest. It's a good question, once again.
Yeah, it's an interesting tweet. So, just make sure I understand. You have a more sort of vibing presence as opposed to strict or rigid masculinity. People don't seem to like that about you, so they try and nudge you or adjust you back towards more masculinity, and then you just stay firm about vibing, and they don't like that. Is that? Is that accurate as far as everything you mentioned there?
Maybe. I don't quite know.
Hmm.
I haven't, the details don't come to mind.
Hmm.
It's not even sticking to vibing. It's when they all gas, no brains. It's when Yeah, that's a damn good question. Yeah, it's that yeah, when my character isn't like, this is a good example way to say it that I have encountered at some very masculine workspace jobs in the past, is when my character isn't hard masculine and I am not allowed to be, or I don't let them always push me around, and they get this sudden moment of okay, you know, this is bullshit, I ain't letting this happen. Then they become frustrated. In that way, I think it's honestly poor communication, which is something I've been thinking about recently, is whether or not just vibing itself and just purely being whatever I want to be in itself is poor communication.
Hmm.
I think there's some validity to that personally. But and then the instance of it is, yeah, they become frustrated and they're like, versus if they know what to expect of like, okay, this guy is an asshole. That's where the value of the arrogance sometimes comes into play. Is then they're like, okay, this guy's an asshole. I'll just get in line. Otherwise,
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like basically when other people can establish some mental model of you, of kombucha, even if it's an asshole, they accept that. Whereas if you're, as we keep saying, just vibing and not quite so definable or, contained, they get frustrated with that.
yes, spot on.
Sweet. Yeah, that's fascinating. Does this occur with both people you're meeting in like newer contexts and repeated contexts? Like if you're working with someone over the period of like many months, do they continue to be frustrated throughout that duration, or does it? Yeah.
No, that's where the flip side of the vibing comes in. It's to the tune of something a friend told me recently, where he's like, man, everyone likes you. And I was just I wasn't sure about whether I would be able to go on a recent adventure, whether I should just do it or what. And this friend is like far more socially ambulant than me, I feel. And yeah, I found that just vibing and being incredibly honest uh, leads to these deeper friendships in the long run, where they know that what they're getting from me is true or genuine or honest, or it is what it is. I'm not trying to manufacture anything versus.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been told that you're great, and was that surprising to hear? Did it sort of fit in with your conception of how other people see you?
Yes. Was that surprising to hear? Yes.
Oh,
Did
okay.
that fit in with my conception of what others want to see in me? Actually, no. Because depending on the person, a lot of people don't like me right away. It happens quite a bit. There's the sympathetic angle of they're just jealous or sad or something or blah blah blah, or again, I'm not what they expect me to be. And yeah, that's what always comes to my mind first when I think of how do people do and don't like me. I totally, since I'm forgetful, I forget about a lot of, I don't totally forget the people, but I forget in the immediate thought space about all of the long-term friendships.
I noticed this at a recent event myself, being complimented much more than I usually am just throughout my life or my days. It felt great, of course. The same for you, I'm sure. And I was thinking, probably women just get more compliments just throughout their days, median woman over the median man. So, how does that affect men's self-conception where they don't get this more regular external validation? They have to sort of, have more self-confidence in order to bolster themselves up because they're not going to get as much of that from their life, the people in their life.
That's it. Exactly. It's finding a reason to believe within yourself from within, and sometimes there's just nothing there, or it takes a while to dig and build something that's at least within myself. And kind of one of my rules is something that I would feel is valid. And again, I'm confident in that idea that I'm using as a source of confidence. It's just insanity. But I hope that makes sense. I honestly already forgot your question.
Yeah. I think there's also a sane track to sort of bootstrapping self-confidence, just that you can start extremely small, just do like tiny things that show like, I am about what I'm about, like just, taking the tiniest step towards, I don't know, some health change in your life, or, going towards some eventual career goal you have, or some like relationship thing you desire. Just like taking the tiniest action to like try and get there. Just the smallest little thing shows like, oh, hey, I'm not quite bullshitting myself entirely. There's this tangible evidence that I'm trying to get somewhere. So that can be a way to, establish a more, trusting, benevolent relationship with yourself. And from that, you can kind of build on it more and more and more to, become confident in the things you're capable of doing and moving towards in life.
That's why the classic male advice of go to the gym and get big works. Shit works. Because being big is awesome. Just move couches and break doorknobs. It's the best.
You breaking doorknobs, dude?
I did it once, like, what was that? 22, 23-ish. Yeah. It was, a particularly loose doorknob, but it's a cool feeling.
Incredible. Do you work out?
Not too much anymore. Mostly just like lifestyle exercise. I used to go to the gym a lot for cardio, and then just did a lot of lifting for, I think, almost a year, focused on weight gain or size and maximum single static. I forget the word for it, but mega gains basically. And yeah, kind of been riding that ever since, and riding that and work that requires exercise to maintain shape.
Cool. Yeah, I love the mega gains. I'll have to
gains, bro.
Keep that in mind in my workouts. Like it's all for the mega gains. Cool, man. Yeah, that was. I was really glad to hear all that from you. It was interesting ideas about, gender. You do a lot of gender tweeting, so I was glad to get this one in.
Yeah, I'm a whiny bitch.
Many frames. All right. Next tweet. On February 14th, 2022, you tweeted, "The problem is we put experts in charge and kicked out all the leaders."
Yeah, that's a good one. That's actually even a problem I have often myself when it comes to requirements at work. Where's that fucking the pie chart where it's like, this is how your knowledge goes as you go from undergrad to grad to PhD, or to mass. What's it between PhD and, I forgot all the 4 levels of the common university programs, but it's that your knowledge becomes more and more focused, and people become very single-minded in their ideas of what can and can't be. And especially when you look at a discipline like, say, psychology, the entire schema or the governing rules of what is and isn't right and wrong changes semi-often, and you'll have people that are incredibly invested in these beliefs that are now known to actually not accurately reflect reality. And then you have people in charge who are making decisions based upon a framework of judgment that is just straight out of the loony bin, basically. And yeah, and it's particularly when it comes to in charge, it's that they are making these decisions at a executive level without any sort of veto power or any counsel, right, between different experts of varying churches or varying competing belief structures. And again, instead, it's just one person. Sorry, what were your thoughts? I feel like I interrupted you there.
No, I'm the host. It's all about your thoughts. I keep having audio things. I'm sorry, like you're clicking a pin, maybe like a little stim. I hate to like stop you from stimming, but
that's good.
You find like a silent way to like go about it.
I'll go back to scribbling.
Okay, so what I heard there was experts, by their nature become specialized, whether it's PhD people or political leadership. They're surrounded by yes men. They sort of lose an ability to see like a broader picture, like how their own specialized knowledge fits into the broader ecosystem, and that's it's not good.
Yeah, that's a rough outline of it, but it's I think it's actually a pointed psychological issue of spending too much time consuming the exact same kind of matter, or like reinforcing knowns instead of exploring unknowns. And then, of course, what that does to someone who's seeking pointed expertise, or as the upside of, to my knowledge with academia, the upside of the doctorate program is you have some sort of study or work that you do at the end of it to push science a little farther forward. And going down the rabbit hole is my favorite way to describe it. Going down the rabbit hole is necessary to finally reach the cutting edge of what is known and unknown. Maybe everything that's based upon might end up being false, but a lot of times this cutting edge work is even useful once you sort of switch modes, say from Freudian now to actually, I think we're currently on loops when it comes to psychology. I haven't kept track. But usually even we're still bringing back ideas from older work that has been done on the cutting edge. And so the process of doing that puts people in a state of like, this can and can't be. And I feels like I'm repeating myself, but yeah, then you have someone like that not thinking creatively. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the experts aren't thinking creatively?
Often not, no. Not when it comes to like when reality itself is changing, or when the state of things are, of the way things are and aren't, is changing.
I think that the map is not the territory might be the meme that applies here, I feel like.
That's right. That's a classic sequences meme.
Like they have their tunnel vision understanding of quotes what is, but it's not reflective of the actual state of things as they are in the world necessarily.
Yes. Yeah, the territory changed. There was a tectonic plate shift or something. And the map is old now.
Yeah. Okay. So then in contrast to experts, what are some qualities of leaders that make them better suited to be in charge?
Good question. It's an idea I've been thinking through recently as someone who had a lot of leadership training when he was young, of varying churches, and both of, or a few of which are commonly known or recently discussed on Twitter. It's one of the core ideals of leadership is like being in tune with, well, if you are a leader, you're going to have subordinates of some sort, whether or not you're necessarily above them in the power structure, whether you're equal to them, whether they're below you, flat structure like a CEO and a board, or whether it's a strict hierarchy, or whether it's just a bunch of people and you're wrangling cats. And regardless of the explicit structure, there's a need to be in tune with them, not only for their own sake, but for the sake of gathering knowledge as far as what is the territory, what is going on at the bottom. And this is something at the top, as what you have to do is, in order to get them to do what you want them to do and to reach the goal. And it sort of happens passively, is this updating of how things are going and where we're moving.
Mm-hmm. So a leader is able to accept and integrates different knowledge and insights from all levels of the hierarchy. Is that
Yeah.
accurate? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got to stay in tune with the needs and knowledge and current state of being within his team, mood, vibe.
The vibing leader,
Mm-hmm.
the rigid expert.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta, but that's as we were talking about prior, sometimes you gotta have the rigid expert who's like, things might seem goofy right now, but I'm pretty sure this is what it is, man.
Okay. Is there a leader in any context, either in your personal life or historically or anywhere, who you particularly admire, and why?
There are quite a few. Recently, I've been on a George Washington grind just because I like the way he handled power. I think it's a great example that a lot of people need to follow, as far as not clinging to power and instead seeking to pass it on, and continue this pattern of passing on power versus maintaining it for self-interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even the just that concept of willingly ceding power itself is very powerful in a different frame. I feel like just the idea of like ceding personal power for the sake of the state power of, we're going to have a healthy continuation of power, beyond my reign in my life into perpetuity.
Yeah, it's a flex.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's historically so powerful because he chose to be less than maximally powerful during his life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, there's a whole other argument or idea to it. Not a detraction, but there's just another step to make. It's its own rabbit hole. Self-interest, basically, versus interest in humanity, or an idea of greater humanity.
And usually you want them to be not necessarily in conflict. Like, there's some great gains that are made when self-interest and humanity's interests are in alignment.
Yes.
I think that was the case with Washington.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably in his economic self-interest to break away from Britain, right? I actually don't doubt that. But there was a little bit of, oh shit, make your own country, you'll get rich. But I don't know. Feels like I should look for a second example.
Don't feel any pressure, man. Washington's a fantastic example. You gave a correct response.
Bingo.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good historical example, but no pressure if you had something from your personal life, any context. Love to hear about that as well, of a admirable leader.
No, it's because people flow in and out of this position of being a leader. So I'm trying to think of like which people I admire and why. I've never thought about it particularly for that reason before. So there's no memory of of that process.
Just like individual actions that are demonstrative of leadership. Doesn't have to be their entire, identity necessarily.
Yeah, it's been it's such a tricky idea to pick out from memory for me.
Right, it's
I'm
not your strong suit.
yeah. Like what would be a memory of someone being a good leader? Even I used to have a coworker who was he had the expert knowledge of what we were doing, and the not a coworker, he was a superior. He didn't act like it though. That was one stellar part of his behavior and his power of his leadership. And then when it came to the actual work that was being done, in a particular moment where there were probably 400 customers on site, plus, if not more, about 30, maybe 40 brand new employees hired just that day, just for that day, to do the work. And because he both had this big picture sense of what was going on, of what needed to happen in his head on like a kind of an outline level, and he was able to not only act decisively, but command people decisively of like, you here, then yeah, it just made it incredibly trustworthy to follow his direction as a leader, because there was no second guessing. It was just you here, you here. Well, I would love to talk about the job in private. It was crazy.
Okay. Yeah. I'm an OPSEC prospector, so but I'd definitely be down to talk about the job in detail in private. That's very cool. It sounds like someone who's able to, delegate and communicate the big picture as well as the
Yeah,
every details of what was going on.
and it was, and especially in hindsight, what comes to mind is I mean, he could see like, oh, so and so is looking tired. Okay, this you being to so and so, go get some water. And yeah, he was just a wizard.
All right. Yeah. Very cool. Great example. Thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
Full steam ahead. Next tweet.
Uh-oh.
On February 18th, 2022, you tweeted, "The men who go, 'Don't talk about those things, you'll upset the women,' are merely trying to get laid. They want women to continue to exist in a benign, non-self-aware state that can easily be coerced and controlled. I say this as someone who once lived the upside of this, and who will continue to do it occasionally simply because why not? It is about as easy as either saying absolutely very literally nothing, or saying what you think they want to hear and throwing some charm into it. Of course, this has been said many times before, but what I have yet to see is the further take that this is what's throwing us through the cycles. It's why there will be a fifth and a sixth and so on wave of feminism, because they can't solve the problem since weak men won't let them." So in this thread, you go on to give advice for women in this ecosystem, but I thought we'd just pause there.
Yeah. Again, yet another uh I wish I remembered the thought space where that came from. What question do you want answered about that? That one is one of that was actually not so much an immediate complaint or whininess, but was more something I've been thinking about over quite a few days, and trying to distill into hopefully a statement that I thought was intelligible or otherwise worth, again, sort of dishing out on the internet. Either someone will find it now, or maybe someone will find it in a few years. It'll be relevant, and who knows how long.
Yeah, I think I get the thrust of your claim there in those tweets. I was really mostly curious to know what are examples of quotes those things you mentioned that shouldn't be talked about for the sake of getting laid.
Oh, there's so many of them. Yeah, where do I begin? I think the topic at the time, it was when it was like Eugenics Day on Twitter.
Every day.
Yeah, it was extra Eugenics Day. It was those things though. What's something you don't say if because you don't want to make the women angry? It's I buried them psychologically myself. Oops.
Well, I mean, you start with eugenics. Sure, this will go swell.
Yeah,
So what, in your view, is it about eugenics discussions that are off-putting to women?
behavioral psych and the idea that some behavior is more hormonally motivated and then not just between gender, but then some people can be more genetically predisposed to being angry or sad. Of course, that's the realm of where it gets into. It's complicated and it's worth discussing it all because it's complicated, and right now people have really simplistic ideas about it. It's more of this hormone or more of that, or even it's immediately passed down, right? It's not passive or dominant alleles or whatever. It's worth talking about to at least get some mushiness into the conversation versus people's current ideas of it, that it's incredibly simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, those conversations are always fraught because with just behavior in general, things are usually multifactorial. So just even broadly, like genetics and environment, I think both play major roles as far as someone's base emotional state or their disposition towards particular behaviors.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that and that even from one base state of genetics, different environments can have a variety of different results, or who knows? A lot of it's just luck.
Right, the genetic lottery.
Yeah, or that even just the luck of how the brain is formed.
So, I mean, just looking over this tweet again, they want women to exist in a non-self-aware state where they can be easily coerced and controlled.
Yeah, that was the kicker. I'm trying to remember what that thought was.
That feels, how do I phrase this? My vocabulary insufficient here. Like it doesn't respect women's agency, maybe? Like they can learn this shit on their own?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question or a fair take on it. That's what I'm sort of trying to get at. I feel like there is that when given these limited ideas of what can and can't be discussed, I think this is the thought. Personally, in this moment, it feels like I'm running on a different set of tracks,
Mm-hmm.
but that I'm totally forgetting the original idea. But it's that when the conversations are limited to, I think it was like, is the term gender normativity or like the ultimate extension of gender fluidity? Is that the term for gender normativity? The term for it. Anyways, that genders are, or that people's behaviors, that like basically anything but about, for 90% of people, they roughly fall within two kind of mushy fuzzy circles. And generally this is sort of predictable. And that when we, oh man, I should have taken that offer to make more coffee.
And you can do it now. It's no problem. We can pause.
Yeah. That feels like cheating though. I'd like to finish the thought first.
Mm-hmm.
There was something I had on my mind in particular. It wasn't even eugenics. It was, yeah, it was that I think actually it wasn't Gaddafi's book, but it was that why does it seem like women have this base and the most 90% bucket 90% fuzzy circle, right? Women seem to have a kind of base fearful emotional state. Is it socially or culturally reinforced or whatever? Or, why does it seem like, sorry about the pen. Uh, why does it seem like so many women behave this way? And that discussion at all, it doesn't seem like is even being had of why. Is it genetic? Is it socially reinforced? Oh, and then where's the work to be done from here if women are seeking more agency and more freedom in their lives? Or where is the path forward? Instead, it's just stuck spinning on things where there is no traction, obviously.
Yeah, admittedly, I haven't heard of this. Correct me if I'm getting this claim wrong, but that women have this base fear state, as you said.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, maybe it's just a claim. Maybe I'm full of shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, like, talking about any huge swath of a population, it's going to be lossy and wrong to some degree.
Mm-hmm. But things like when I mentioned, you know, being just straight up homeless for periods of time, and a lot of the men are just like, yeah, go at it. And there's this a fearful response from a lot of women. They're, oh, are you safe? And blah blah. It's like that's appreciated, but more of my thought is again the difference between the instinctual thought of why
Mm-hmm.
is this some sort of like base caretaker thought pattern that's still being passed down socially or socioculturally without us noticing? Is it a hormonal thing? That's the question.
Gotcha. Yeah. Hmm.
I remembered. I remembered. I think it was the example that I was that kept coming to mind in that moment was of at a prior job I worked, which was sort of a kind of sport with a playing field of a varying nature. I don't know if we've talked about it at all. And again, it's one of the many. Most of my jobs I've worked at in my life are male dominant workspaces, but a significant amount of the customer base here is women, and the men are talking about how to literally change the playing field to make it so that the women don't hit like hard defeat immediately as often, and to make it easier for them in this moment, or make it easier for them to actually get some at least initial success, and then of course confidence building, but it's sort of false confidence building because the men are able to do this perfectly fine without the change in the playing field. And again, it's this a lot of, and it was one example of many hidden crutches I see all around us that are really damning or damaging to women, or otherwise really don't help them because they believe they're feeling success without actually um, learning the trick or the what is required to overcome these hurdles, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I definitely understand everything you're saying there. I don't know where to continue with that. It's so spicy and so, like, complex and
Yeah, and I wish if you ever want, I could work out a full like example just for personal curiosity of what I've been of all these little crutches. It's or another prime example is say the army having trouble deciding whether or not to change the requirements, the testing requirements to get in the infantry to allow women or more women to actually pass. And then again, whether or not that's a space which is best for the, this feels cheap, but the skills most women are born with. Um, I'm willing to totally hear other angles on that. Or generally what a lot of women are more likely to be predisposed to be good at versus prime example is the Finnish sniper women, which is more nuanced and something that isn't quite a the boys activity. It's the final finish of that, or point of that, which is, again, I'm only sort of sure, not really sure about it, but that it seems like women are a lot better at things which require a lot of fine control and tact and nuance
Mhm.
and quite frankly self-control, versus men are much better at just fucking yeehaw.
I think I have heard or seen that take that men are more just get at it, kind of move forward, whereas women are more, detail oriented.
Yeah.
But those two examples, both the playing field and the army, they seem to both encompass this idea that, on a population level, women have different physiology from men, like the median woman versus the median man. And so,
Hmm.
in contexts where men and women coexist in some goal or competition or pursuit, is it, quotes, right or not to accommodate those, two sets of physiologies, or just let the women in this case, probably not being as physically adept for whatever the task is, just kind of not succeed as much just due to the nature of the way their body is compared to men.
Yes, or body or mind or whatever. It's that those accommodations might necessarily be misguiding or leading them into, again, feeling like they're, and seeming like, or believing they're achieving success, where in fact they're being led astray. And again, that's ties back into this what was the tweet? It's that that they're in this non-existent space, really, of
You said benign non-self-aware state.
yeah, of near of false existence, that's only again, then these men control that that state that supports that, and they have them completely, basically, under their whim, and they can add or remove support depending on where they want to push, which way they do or don't want to push the women.
Hmm.
And this
Hmm.
I hate this the women. I need a better word. Maybe just women is more personable and sympathetic.
Hmm. So then, do you think it's usually better then for if a rule set or a playing field is being adjusted to better accommodate women, it's better for them to be aware of that as opposed to being ignorant of it?
Yes, 100%.
Hmm.
I mean, then they know where the accommodations are being made, and maybe, even though that's a steep learning curve, they can fucking charge at it and seek that hard, difficult growth for the few that want to take the difficult path, versus just being completely unaware of where to go and trying to use men's strategies, which are easily and readily available, as that's what a lot of men do, is solve problems and share problem solving strategies. And yeah.
Hmm. I've heard this, I think, applied in like a business context too, where uh, women try to display like a masculine style of, I don't know, leadership, or if they when they rise in a hierarchy, I don't know, they sort of have this like potentially non-genuine way of leading, which doesn't suit their like natural, I don't know, personality or ways of communicating and being a leader. They just want to imitate the men style because that's what always succeeds in business. Men rise to the top.
I've never heard that, but it sounds dope. Sounds like a good,
Yeah,
sounds like a good thought.
I just
Uh,
thought of another context this could relate in.
yeah,
Hmm. Uh, it's so messy, man.
right. It's
I
mushy.
yeah, I was scared to add this tweet, but I'm glad I did. So wait, do you personally talk about this with women ever? Like, hey, do you know you're being accommodated, by the way? Do you ever bring this up?
Yes, I have a a select few that sounds shitty. A few that I have found are willing to talk about these things on a direct, like, us to us, one to one over the internet, but over distance, but we have known each other in person. Or like one of them is a photographer at her wedding. That's how personal relationships are.
Mhm.
I've known them for years, and or they've went to varying either liberal arts colleges or more masculine spaces, military. Uh,
Yeah, that personal relationship thing just,
that's where a lot of this comes from, is those discussions.
yeah. Yeah, having these discussions is, pretty much always goes over better when you have some personal relationship history with the other person, like you're, friends in real life or have a shared context outside of just the discussion itself, like, replying on Twitter or whatever.
Hmm.
Because then you can understand, I don't know, it just seems to lead to more empathy and more good faith
Yeah,
attributions towards the other discussion, the person in the discussion.
yeah, that's spot on. And
Hmm.
then again, the goal isn't hate. The goal is growth and liberation.
Hmm.
And as much as I have my complaints and bitching about feminism, that's my ultimate belief, is of freedom and pure or solid understanding of who we are. It's just that a lot of the frameworks suck
Hmm.
or are unhelpful.
Right. Whew. Okay.
That was a good one though. That was a thank you. That was one I got kind of rambly towards the end, but I
Hmm.
put a good amount of work into trying to frame it together into something that made any sense at all.
Hmm. I feel like I've expended more critical thinking in the past hour than I have in the 2 weeks before now.
Nice. Is your brain on fire?
Yeah, and I love it. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your brain on Twitter and letting me pick and choose the ones I want to go deep on here.
That's the best feeling.
Cool, man. All right. Next tweet.
Shit.
Next tweet. On February 28th, 2022, you tweeted, "Ah, shit, almost out of smokes."
28th. What day was that?
A couple weeks ago.
Where was I?
It was 4 p.m., at least the time I see, if that matters.
4, 4 p.m. It was probably 8 p.m. where I was, maybe 7, something like that. Monday. I think I was about to hop on a plane, something like that. No, I was hopping on a plane later that week. Oh yeah, I was at a kind of like a remote location where there were no cigarette sales, there were only beer sales. And well, I was out of smokes.
Right.
It
Yeah,
was just a dumb thought.
no, I just wanted to know from this your history with cigarettes. Just anything you want to share about that,
Oh
its presence in your life.
yeah. First I started nicotine as from the common, I feel like, R space, or like the computer science space angle of like, oh, holy shit. I was into nootropics at the time, and I was like, wow, nicotine's fucking awesome. Like, technically speaking, I was like, I should try this shit. I was like, whoa, nicotine's awesome. And and from there I started actually with vaping. It was the vaping to smoking pipeline. And no joke. Um and then after exiting the more white collar space of computer science and entering a lot of blue collar jobs, particularly one, I found that particularly one that required a lot of customer service and dealing with customers that are of higher economic status than me, where I'm the lowly laborer and they're the particularly upper middle class to lower upper class white dudes. They really think they're hot shit, and there's nothing quite like being able. There's no more satisfying way of being able to satisfying or effective way of being able to tell someone to fuck off than just they're saying there, blah blah blah, I'm in my needs, I got my needs, I'm in a hurry. And you just light up a cigarette and they're just sitting there rambling, and eventually they just stop talking and you're sitting there like, are you done? But you don't even have to say that. It's even better than having to say it. It's the perfect communication of, I'm sorry, man, I don't give a shit. There's nothing I can do. Get in line. There are 10 other guys like you in line, and unlike you, not you, but this proverbial person that I've dealt with probably 100 odd times, these 10 other guys are actually designed to be mature adults, and that maybe they should do the same. It's one of the most stellar class signals I have ever found, besides the ratty ass jacket, which didn't used to be so ratty. It's kind of a bummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cigarette as like social tool is very interesting.
I've heard that the common one that I like to hedge against is cigarettes are social capital because of the smoking circle, and that's all right. You know, you sort of make friends, and especially it's you know, that's if it's not the last cigarette, cigarettes are always free if somebody needs one or wants one, and always just instant make buddies with people that way. But it reminds me of I don't remember whether it was a tweet or a meme I saw somewhere of women relative to women, where it's like, oh yeah, see this girl, think she's cute on Tinder. Oh wait, she smokes, shit, she's a mechanic. Like, and I personally didn't see why that was a downside. That was what the communicated idea was, that, oh, she's a mechanic, that's a bad thing. Personally, I see it the other way around of, oh, she smokes, she's got to be cool. Which is someone I'm supposed to have a date with in the future. Was identified by peers as, oh, you're gonna like this girl, firstly because she smokes, and that just it signals a lot, whether trade-offs of future, of present desire or need for that kind of satiation, and what that says. I've heard the angle of like what that says about self-control and lack of good coping strategies, but in my experience as someone who's tried basically every coping strategy of the book, nothing quite hits the same. Not even antidepressants quite hit the same as the best antidepressant, which is cigarettes.
Whoa.
It actually works the same. It works as an MAOI. Nicotine does. Actually, I think it was smoking in particular works extra strong, has an extra strong MAOI effect. And
yeah, what is that?
I only remember the I, because it's inhibitor. It's
okay.
It's some neurological chemical that's above my pay grade. I've been wanting to get into chemistry, but one day, maybe when I'm 40. But it works, and you can almost always get a smoke break at work, whereas you can't get I'm tired, I need to take a breather break.
And go drink some water break, or go get sun-pilled break.
Exactly. That has changed a little, and it especially changes if with expertise, or with expertise is the wrong word, with employer value of the employee, right? If you're in the position of like, I can't get fired, then yeah, I've found being able to take a sun break actually works. But when you're just again a new hire or a no experience hire, then it is more difficult to get a break without relying on the norm of the smoke break. And so you can rely on, or I can rely on the norm of the smoke break to get a break at all, or to get a little breather, or to even as what just happened recently with coffee, is get a little thought break and think about the problem I've been working on without actively having to look at the problem or look like I'm working.
Oh,
And
yeah. It's
yeah,
just a general phenomenon where, right, as you said, taking a break from like the active whatever work task and like letting your brain just like passively or in the background chew on it
hmm
can just like spontaneously generate, insights or a way forward if you're stuck somewhere.
exactly. And it's being able to meet that need in order to actually meet the employer's desires or the manager's desires of solving the problem,
Hmm.
even though while simultaneously meeting their foolish or poor leadership need of needing to see their employees work.
Hmm. Yeah, man. Just that idea that you said of like, hey, boss, I need to go not look at the screen to figure out the way forward. Boss says no. Hey, boss, I need to go take a smoke break, which will
Mhm.
accomplish the same thing I just said. Boss says yes.
And that's where it comes the whole way back around into being a class signal, is actually having to have been in that position in life of needing to get that break, and the only way to rely on getting that break is the norm, um,
Hmm.
of not having any status to work with to begin with.
Do you think you'll smoke for the rest of your life?
I've been thinking about that. It's tough. Smoking's cool.
Can't not be cool.
You're right. uh, Especially it's what keeps coming to mind is what a friend of mine who's I think he's I think he's pursuing his doctorate again, and he is currently married to someone who is already has her doctorate, and I think she got her doctorate at like 23 or something. And they he said and she affirmed, when especially when talking about surfing, he was like, yeah, I was just watching this guy and he just fucking lit up caught the wave, stood up and just lit a cigarette and wrote it in. And man, anything that you're doing looks 10 times cooler if you're smoking while you're doing it. And again, this guy is a doctor, and his wife was like, yeah, totally. They're both doctors and they're telling me this. And it's like, wow, I didn't really believe it before then. Or I tried to avoid it for the same reason I've had this confidence issue as described prior relative to what people say to me. I've tried to avoid that in order to not letting my ego get too inflated and trying to be humble as a person.
Mhm.
But man, after hearing that, it was like, damn, yeah, smoking's cool.
Yeah. Hmm.
I decided to believe or put some credence to their words and their judgment. It's been a
Mhm.
tough point for me recently.
I'm just curious, a little bit of an aside, but I read like a super hot take recently that, again, everything's multifactorial, but the claim was the obesity epidemic is in part caused by the fact that people just don't smoke cigarettes nearly as much anymore.
Wow, yeah, that one's multifactorial. Is it indicative or
Mhm.
is it an immediate causation of on appetite? Yeah, is it an indicative of lower stress jobs
Mhm.
and therefore less immediate hardship and stress in the population, or then of stress,
Mhm.
less of the chemical, the immediate appetite suppression, and more of again, less appetite suppression from less stress in life.
Mhm.
Uh, who knows? But that's a good question to ask. That's one of those questions that a lot of people want to avoid.
Yeah. Yeah. I know very little, just basically regurgitating a blog post title or tweet I saw or something. Do cigarettes suppress your appetite?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, definitely. It's something that over time, appetite comes back, the body adapts. Um, but in the immediacy, yeah. And then I think, I mean, there's again, everything is multifactorial, excellently stated. There's and this doesn't ring true for me, but there's the well measured known that that smoking cigarettes generally harms people's sense of smell. And then how does that factor into their desire to eat or their satiation from eating?
Does that cigarettes negatively affect one's smell ability?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know.
That's a common known that lifetime smokers slowly lose their sense of smell. I think it's personally from straight up blowing smoke out of the nose, which looks cool.
It's like heating up the whatever's in there.
Yeah, or just
Over.
or just the nicotine hitting the whatever nose hairs, however the nose works. But it comes back, and again, even within, personally, from what I've noticed, it's within 15 minutes. Once the immediate buzz is gone of nicotine, then and it is particularly nicotine, not smoking, that I've noticed. That's why I like these bad boys. As if I don't feel like eating or don't feel like I want to have to deal with eating or thinking about it, and I can just throttle myself on nicotine and not have to think about it. It's a sort of an external control, similarly to making a calendar to remember things versus trying to keep everything in the headspace. Another external management strategy.
Yeah, people just on hunger have such people have such wildly varied relationships with, hunger and food and those like body signals.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it's a good hedge against is hunger, or yeah, the immediate psychological effects of hunger, and whether it's in the moment, even to go back to Casino Royale, and whether it's necessary in the moment to push oneself to avoid that sense and that felt need for the sake of other needs.
Yeah, I mean, I think usually, any individual event is not nearly as important as the trend over longer periods of time. Like, do you have a healthy relationship with food in general, as opposed to, I overate today or whatever? Probably doesn't matter in the long run, as long as it doesn't become, a habit. Like I overate 5 days in a row might be more concerning.
Exactly. Or did I have a need to overeat? Right? Am I trying to make gains, or am I working a lot and sweating a lot, burning a lot of calories? Then where does overeating fit in that? If you're burning 4,000 calories a day,
yeah,
like it's just honestly not possible. Then even the guy who's big enough to eat 6,000 calories, well, he's big and he can burn 6,000 calories a day. Yeah, big infantry guys.
Wait, they just like do that every day, or like they work for that?
Yeah, that's like I'll have to find and have my computer set up fucking screwy here.
Oh boy.
But it's like the common meal size for when guys are in buds, the entry program for SEAL. It's fucking hilarious. It's like just straight up meat and potatoes, and it's an incredible amount of food because well, they're eating an incredible amount of food and just carrying logs, because that's what the test is just putting your body through shit. And what's the calorie count if Google works at all anymore? 3,500 to 6,000 calories per day. Hilarious. Nutrition guide. Ooh, that's a good PDF.
Right click.
Yep, right click, save, put it in the library. Wow.
All right, I'll let you peruse the PDF on your own time.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead on to your next tweet here. On March 14th, 2022, you tweeted, "How do I fry my brain into being asexual?"
Oh, that was last night. Was that last night? Yeah, that was last night. Huh. I wonder if the immediately relevant people are going to listen to this. It's a tough issue I've dealt with a lot of my life, to the tune of vibing. Is it's like I don't personally, and since this is excellent, because I have it right on my mind, is just vibing. I don't have the immediate draw to women that a lot of women seem to expect or want from me, or is the norm. As who is it? Who's the Netherlands guy on Twitter? Elodes Netherlands.
Hmm.
I think so. It has fucking excellent stories, or excellent points about wants and needs from either side, and the desire to be pursued that a lot of women want, and that when I'm just vibing or just expressing what I immediately feel, well, it takes me actually quite a bit of time around someone to actually feel drawn to them, or feel like I want to be closer to them, or that I want them, and then for that expression to come out without thought, right, without a framework, or without acting according to others' rules, per, like, say, The Game, my unironic one of my favorite books is Stan. Is you have to read it the whole way through. Always got to get that disclaimer out, because it's a narrative, not a playbook. But to communicate that genuinely, and the fact that doesn't really match up most of the time, the vast majority of the time, with most single women, and then their expressed frustration with that, and it's like, well, I am who I am, and then the flip side of always, I don't know, hitting that wall. I don't know how many times in my life now, hundreds, and not wanting to even deal with it anymore, just because it's tired, man.
Hmm. Okay, so it sounds like the sort of the process by which you personally generate and develop desire towards women does not match what they would want or expect from you, to their
Yeah,
frustration.
to their expressed frustration, to my own frustration with it, and to and then it's, I don't know, this feels like a pity party statement to make, but to the feelings of being an outlier relative to most other people's relating strategies or skills or base.
Yeah, do you mind going into just in detail there, if you want to, in what ways
Yeah,
you're an outlier?
exactly
Hmm.
that feels like what's the common meme with the, like, when you look at him, when you look at a man in the bar, when a woman looks at a man in the bar versus when a man looks at the bar, and it's just like it's that zeroing in of, like, oh, I want this woman. That's not really something that comes to mind to me, and that's something either most women are used to feeling and think this is in the I don't know territory of is it a socially reinforced norm, or what they believe they ought desire because of cultural presence
Hmm.
and social reinforcement, or what, and not fitting in that at all, really.
Hmm. So then, trying to understand like the real life situation which this manifests. So like, say on a first date, the woman, um, do you are you curious? Do you ask a lot of questions about her? Do you refrain from, like, I don't know, body language demonstrations of interest? Like, how does she receive the message that you're, an outlier?
Receive the message. Huh.
Right? How does she become frustrated by your actions or lack thereof? Like, what happens on the date or doesn't happen?
Yeah, the conversation used to be an issue for me, not so much anymore. I can usually hold up a conversation even if the person has very limited social skills, which is a good skill in itself to learn, is how to help people, and sort of a set example there of how
Hmm.
a conversation goes. It's even just a recent trip I've been on has been a terrific exercise in that, very satisfying uh in helping people socialize. And or there's probably a lot that I've even received being helped socialized. And but it's like particularly for me, it's touch is always really difficult to initiate or to feel again until it's actually I feel the need to like, okay, I want to touch this person. My time frame for that is much longer than what most women want. I don't know. What most women are used to. I don't know. I don't know what the causes are behind it, other than well, I want to say what is expected and not in a wanted or necessarily desired, but what is what they're used to or believe is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and then there's visible or body language frustration or discomfort. Reminds me of a date I not even a date. We were supposed to hook up like 2 or 3 years ago. And uh, this chick invited me over to her place at like 10 p.m. and this is how dense I am. Uh, I was like, oh, she wants to chat and bullshit. We were just bullshitting for a really long time, and I made a couple moves inwards because I was like, oh shit, I should probably do something. I kind of want to get laid, and but there was no response for her. Her response was more not necessarily shielded, but not quite deer in the headlights, but more doish. And uh, I know knowledge wise that maybe that's would mean, and this is where it gets tricky, is does that mean she wants me to push more or push beyond that? And no knowing does she know is tricky in that moment relative to habits. And where do I move there? Do I push more? Do I push less?
Mm-hmm.
And over time she just became a little frustrated or confused, like, why isn't he? That was actually what a different Tinder date last summer said, was her question, and it was she taught me a lot. It was one of the things I'm very thankful for, was is he going to make a move or should I make a move? And that confusion within herself of of what she is supposed to do. Yeah, I feel like there's something I'm not finishing there, but
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, there's just I don't know, a social or cultural script where in those contexts, like the guy is the one to progress the situation.
mm-hmm.
It's up to the woman to either, accept or reject those progressions.
Mm-hmm.
So
Spot
if you're
on.
if you're not doing your part in the script, then she doesn't
Yeah,
he doesn't know how to behave because you're off script there. It's uncharted territory.
that's it exactly, is the battle between following the script and or uh acting, being, communicating genuinely. And where's the where's the sanity lie in that equation? I don't know. I don't know yet. Working on it.
Yeah, that sounds tough. Like you're either in these situations, either not being true to yourself or not being, true to how she would like the interaction to go. So someone's gonna be disappointed.
Yeah.
There's not the compromise seems tough to impossible from what you're describing.
Yeah. I believe there is. Of course, I'm a fucking problem solver. But
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't uh found it yet, nor have I found anyone's answer to it that's satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this makes me wonder, like, what if on a date you were just like, maybe towards the start, like, hey, I'm an outlier, by the way. I don't know, like just communicating the ways in which you notice, you're different in these regards, and just being upfront about that from the start.
Yeah, that's a excellent piece of advice. I'm gonna steal it.
And if it's advice, just like curious if you would try that or would be open to trying that, because just trying something different, usually just getting new data on how to go towards things you want. If what you're doing isn't working, try something else.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Communicating explicitly has never worked for me. It's always hit with a almost never.
Mm-hmm.
Rarely it does, which is nice. But usually it's met with, well, communicating explicitly a lot of things, regardless of gender, either way, is like a social faux pas. And maybe faux pas itself is usually social, but and trying to decipher a way to communicate that subtextually or through image
Hmm.
and not quite persona, but through a dating profile itself and the way it's constructed, or another nonverbal means. To me, that seems like the angle. Fuck it, I'll try communicating explicitly a few more times. I got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm not telling what to do here. I was just curious about
oh,
if
yeah,
that was a possible experiment you could run.
yeah. Uh, I've tried communicating explicitly many other things before, and yeah, it's always met with confusion or expecting there to actually be some other message
Hmm.
there,
Yeah.
that I'm actually saying something else. When in reality, I'm just saying, no, sorry, I'm kind of dumb.
Hmm. Yeah, I want to bring up some relevant information that uh, we've discussed in person. If it's not okay, just feel free to interrupt, and I'll cut all this part.
That's very fun.
But you've mentioned that in the past, at least from what I understood, you were much more successful as far as interactions with women, as far as succeeding with physical and/or romantic efforts when you meet women, which sounds like you're less successful now as opposed to then. So I'm curious to know, like, what changed?
I quit following the script,
Right.
and yeah, I decided to communicate more genuinely and
Mm.
accurate to how I feel in the moment versus following a known script. And again, the expectations or the what is known that uh, a lot of women want from them.
So following the script was never something you wanted to do. It was just what you ended up doing for the sake of whatever you desired with the woman.
Not even. I mean, that was part of the motivation. Not even part. A significant part of the motivation. Get laid. Duh. Uh, but it was starting with no social skills at all, and from there, okay, what do I do? How do I talk to women, even though that feels like a cheap way to say it, or how do I communicate my desires, and then on to first again read a couple books and was like, okay, this is something that works, and it was had a poor theory of others' mind at that point in time, uh, of okay, this is what I'll do that'll get me the results that I want, and yeah, then following the script, tweaking and making adaptations that are make it a little more personal, or adding my own touch to it, and then to make it unique, not identifiable as structured game, which is the mistake most men make when trying to do pickup artist shit. Is they just follow the script exactly, and well, there's a bazillion other dudes the dude who wrote it has been following that script for probably 5 years before he even wrote it down, and then it was distributed and then popularized, and then well, women are like, okay, this is game, and they immediately like reject that. So then yeah, making it imperceptible, and again, in the long run, you realize this is why I'm an unironic stan of the game. Is at the very end of the book, he realizes like, oh shit, this is fucking psychological manipulation, and I should probably not be this way. And yeah, same thing. I was just like, oh well, this is pretty fucked up actually, and deciding to again think about how I want to communicate what is felt within myself accurately, truly, and in a way that others understand. And that was when I lost the mojo. I think I've been thinking about that recently quite when I think it's also more like psychological distress, but I think I was in part of it, and then well maybe that is it, is unintentionally communicating the psychological distress.
Wow.
I've vibed myself into emitting red flags without thinking about it.
Mm.
Oops. Oh man, that's terrific.
Vibed myself into emitting red flags.
Yeah.
The perils of vibing. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I just want to say, hearing all this, like, I can imagine a hypothetical listener hearing this, and she's response is like, "Oh my God, yes, please don't follow the script. I fucking hate the script."
Yeah.
So just a matter of finding her, someone in real life or online or whatever, just someone like you as you are, appeal to someone out there. Many people, I'm sure. Just
Sure.
you happen to have not met them lately in real life.
Oh yeah. That's been the personal project, is getting out more lately versus being stuck in, again, male dominant workspaces and just going to work and going home and going to work and going home, or going to school and going home. And it's a little harder now not being in college, but it was even that first in college was the habit from high school was go to school, go home. And it was go to school, go to class, go to the gym, go home, do homework, and rinse and repeat. And actually deciding like, oh, I should just kind of hang around college more and hang out at the coffee shop. And yeah, slowly, continuously working against that habit from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is the answer, is increasing P or increasing N.
Right. Always move towards the goal. Setbacks and failures, etc., are always part of the process.
Oh, spot on.
Cool. All right, Kombucha, that was all I had to discuss with you. But before we wrap up, I'd like to know, what are your favorite things about your Twitter experience?
Oh, big question. One, just the incredible saturation of highly intelligent people, or people with wonderful insights, who are, I don't want to say similarly minded, but similarly open or willing to talk about just about whatever. As I've mentioned, it to me, as someone who spent a lot of time on 4chan as a younger person, even adolescent, it feels incredibly open, and there a never-ending stream. There is a never-ending stream of fresh ideas or new perspectives, even without response to my own, to pick up and listen to and think about, and then kind of add into my own framework of understanding. Of course, not explicitly, but just that's the way to describe it. Lots of bullshit. I I like the smart people on Twitter. I also like the shit posters. Way too much fun with shit. Just the turd thoughts.
And they can even be one and the same sometimes, the same poster.
Yeah. That's it. Some people have their own shit posting accounts. I've considered that as having separate outlets, whether that's helps others filter their own desired information coming in or not. But that's kind of also my shtick, is you get me as you get me. Like that's I'm not trying to hold anything back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. Since sort of the alt ecosystem seems to be quite strong and active and healthy around where we hang out on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better to try and bucket your types of content, so to speak, or just be everything you are in a single account, everything you want to share?
Exactly, and that was what I decided, was that I wanted to be this, I don't know, single, not necessarily known to be any person, for any, not have anyone not having any assumptions about me or who I am prior, just purely an expression of thoughts. And this is what one person can be as one whole person, the same person, and presenting that, if that makes any sense at all. That's and that's part of it, is people are versus in real life, even in every different domain, whether it's a work domain or the bars or more professional setting or a more discourse oriented setting, that there's the tune and the topical, or the persona that's sort of expected as a base of like, this is how you're supposed to communicate within this space, versus Twitter. It's just a lot, and that's wonderful. I feel like it's not necessarily. I think the focus spaces have their own value, but it's that there aren't many on Twitter, and I think that unlike 4chan, it's easy to get banned from Twitter. So you get relatively easy as a. I keep losing so many followers, especially the communists always get banned. They're like the most persecuted group on Twitter. And yeah, that there is even some like negative feedback, and reasons to either improve communication or otherwise seek out why that negative feedback is being received, even though, as I mentioned recently, there's not as much, but there is quite a bit for it being an online space, yet not being linked to a identical personhood, like with a history and such, and prior relationships, the way, or necessarily with prior relationships, the way, say, Facebook or Nextdoor is. If you're not a Nextdoor, Nextdoor is fucking lit, man.
That there is no Twitter script. There's no specified way of how to be on Twitter, and it's beautiful because everyone just brings their own sort of flavor to it.
And from there, the memes sprout and come to life, and memes or memetics, or as someone else described the entirety of self-sustaining ideas, as he was describing them as egregores.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, well, man, that guy's mind moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's a compliment. He's wow. He's thinking at warp 9.9, almost at warp 10. But that's a bad place to be. And yeah, that from this flow of ideas, there comes these ideas that have a life of their own, and then they exit anyone's control, and they just run rampant until the joke has been burned to the, or hammered into the ground. What's the male term for it? Running a joke into the ground. Just that's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Every new meme gets to integrate with every other meme that's ever existed, so the life cycle continues a little from there. All right. It was really great talking with you today, Kumbucha. Thanks for
Likewise.
taking the time again, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well. I appreciate you bringing me on here. It's been wonderful things to bring back to mind and think about.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Take care.